Hey, I'm B and this is my top 10 games for young families. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that this game list is going to provide you with the next great game to bring to your table with your family. Now, I'm one of those lucky gaming parents whose kids are just as obsessed with the hobby as I am, and I know I'm lucky and I'm super grateful for it, and I really do understand that's not the case for everybody or every family. A lot of these games in my list are actually cooperative games, and that's because kids love playing cooperatively and they love winning together, all for one and one for all sort of thing, you know? So if you are looking for a way to start your kids off into gaming, or if they're a little resistant to the gaming experience, I always recommend starting cooperatively. My top 10 isn't a top 10 kids games though, so I know that some of these games are going to be in the kids game category as well, but I'm focusing on this experience that they provide for families rather than just for children. So sure, your kids are going to love these games, but will you love these games, or will you as a family love these games? And I hope the answer to that is like my family, and yes, you will. I really hope this list helps you find the next great game to bring to your table this spring. To start us off super strongly, at number 10 we have Monstrosity by Deepwater Games. So this game is for 3 to 8 players, which I think is great in itself because it does open up to a lot more families with that high number count. It's also language independent, and it's just a really fun party style drawing game. It's there's nothing quite like Monstrosity, I don't think. So in the game, you'll basically be drawing suspects. A witness will be one player, and they will have a card that only they know what it looks like. And in the base rules, you will have 20 seconds to memorize that card. You'll then have to place it face down, and you'll then have 2 minutes to describe the card to the other players, who will then be drawing the suspect as best they can based on your descriptions. They can ask questions, and you're going to try and get them to draw it as close as possible as you can to your card. Now, when we play it with our kids, we don't have the timers in the game because I know it's such an important part of the game to have those timers. It really does create that manic tension and chaos that party games really thrive on. But for us, the focus is really on getting the kids to learn to communicate effectively, and more importantly, to listen properly. From the first game through to the 6th game, we saw such a huge improvement, especially between my 2 kids, in the way that they communicated with each other. So it started out with, there was a lot of frustration there, like, you said the head was circle, but now you're saying it's a square. And then you saw as they played it more and more, they were finding ways to communicate better. So instead of saying it's a circle and one of them drawing a circle, they would say, well, is it a long circle, or is it a small circle? Is it a large circle? And they were really starting to figure out how to ask those questions, how to engage with each other. And honestly, for such a creepy, kooky looking game, that was beautiful. I thought that was really beautiful. That is one of the reasons why I recommend this for young families, because it is teaching you to communicate in a game, like through a game. Like, you don't even know that you're learning this important life skill because you're having so much fun drawing monsters. It's so cool. So if you're looking for that kind of experience with your family, then Monstrosity might be for you. Our number 9 is a game that I would not leave off this list, Outfoxed by Game Right Game. In Outfoxed, you'll be playing as detectives, going around this little town, trying to figure out who stole the pie this time, and it's always some crazily dressed fox. Now, while you're doing that, the fox is moving down a pathway and trying to escape to the foxhole. You'll determine all of this by rolling 3 dice each turn. So you will decide, I want to go searching this time, which means you want to go looking for clues, and you'll roll the dice, and you'll need to return paw prints. So every time you roll, you can keep as many dice as you want, at least 1 die, and then you can roll 3 times basically. Now, if you want to reveal a suspect, you have to do the opposite and roll 3 eyes instead. And if you don't get the 3 that you need, that's when the fox moves, and it moves 3 spaces along the track. So it adds that little bit of tension and that little bit of racing element. So there is a bit of a time crunch on this game, which I think turns up the complexity there just enough to make it really fun for adults as well, because you do really feel like you're working as a team against the clock or against the fox. So the other cool thing about this game is its clue system. So this is a magic evidence scanner, and basically they have done some sort of magic to these cards and these clues. I don't understand how it works, where they've color-coded the clues with the suspects with the thief. It is very, very clever. It's very unique, and I've not seen it done before, and I do think that this little system here is probably one of the reasons why it's one of the more popular children's games. But I think the main reason that this is one of my recommendations for a top family game for young families is because it is very accessible. There is no reading involved. It is very easy to set up. The rules are very simple. I think if you're looking for a good whodunit game, if you're looking for an entry level into gaming with your family, then you should check out Outfoxed. Dragonwood by Gamewright Games is our number 8 game on the list. So in Dragonwood, you are going to be entering the Dragonwood. It is a set collection card and dice game, and you will be trying to collect creature cards for points. There's also some event cards, and there are some ability cards like potions, unicorns, things like that, which give you extra like added bonuses to your roll, or lets you re-roll things and stuff like that. And that's where some reading becomes involved. And so if you're playing with the very young kids, you modify that out. Don't use those cards. It doesn't really affect the game at all. We still have a very, very good time just playing without those cards. And you'll be basically collecting sets of numbered cards. You'll be collecting sets of colored cards. You'll be collecting sets of runs. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think that is a very cool thing, how it introduced kids to so many different ways of set collection. The dice come into it because if you play 3 blue cards, you can roll 3 dice to try to capture that creature. The creatures have different toughness levels and numbers that you're going to need to be able to roll in order to capture them. So it's definitely this cool balance of, you want to get some of the weaker creatures because they will give you 1 point each. And if you had, say, 10 1-point creatures and one person gets a 13-point dragon or something, that score is very, very tight. And I actually have seen some games end where the people who win the dragons, who are the ultimate prize of Dragonwood, it's called Dragonwood, they actually don't win because somebody else had collected a bunch of weaker creatures along the way. So you can save your cards up for that, or you can use a diff race. So there's definitely a bunch of different strategies here, which I think again is what makes it good for those young families, because you want a game that sort of accommodates a lot of different thinking styles, a lot of different strategy, a lot of different experience levels, and this game really does hit that brief there. It is very accessible, and I don't think that this is one of those games that's going to overwhelm people, or children at least, to play. So if you're looking for a very, very cool, very, very cool themed set collection, dice rolling adventure through a dragon creature filled wood, then I recommend that you check out Dragonwood. Our number 7 is Lupin Louis, which is this crazy classic box of chaotic fun, madness, all the rest of it. It's a game by Let's Play Games. It's been revived. It is a game that I've been told by a lot of adults they played as kids. They're like, oh, I played that with my family, it was so much fun. And I didn't play it as a kid, but it makes me super happy to think that my kids are going to be that grown up in a few years. Just the idea that my kids are going to have gaming memories when they're adults is so cool to me. It's one of my favorite things, and it's one of the reasons why I do this, why I come online and I talk about kids and family games, because I just want more people to be able to experience that and to be able to have those memories in their lives, because to me, they're the most precious ones that I have. So let's get into this game. What is it? It is crazy. I mean, it's motorized. You've got this guy in his little plane. He's going to fly around. He's going to try and knock your chickens down out of your coop. I think the storyline is that he's stealing them, but to be honest, I've never really read that much into the storyline because we're too busy playing, because you just need to get straight into this game and start smashing that hammer. I have taken this game to kindergartens, to schools for children to play. I used to run a volunteer board game club, so I have tried this with hundreds of kids, and it is always a hit. And it's always surprising with what they're learning with the game too, because even though it seems like this silly, mad game where you're just hitting things, you also are learning timing. So you need to be patient to that timing to hit it properly. And you also can't hit it too hard because you knock your own chickens down. So it's teaching them a bit of self-restraint too. And I'll tell you what, teaching a 3-year-old self-restraint when it comes to this game, it is tricky. But they do get it because they start to become possessive of those chickens. Like, I mean, they're crazy about their chickens, and they are sitting there really lightly tapping their handle by the end of the 5th round or something. And it's very, very cool to watch that adapt and watch them do that. This game is a family game. I mean, it is just perfect. There is no real strategy involved, like you might figure out how to tap it a certain way to get it to bounce into the next person's chicken, sure, but Louis moves in mysterious ways. Sometimes he is going to fly away in the ways that he's never moved before. So you can't really get too hooked on strategy in this game. It's just fun and it's super, super fast. You can play 10 rounds of this in 2 minutes. Like it just goes so fast. It is going to allow anyone to come around the table to play together and to really have a great time just stealing each other's chickens, I guess. So if you're looking for a game that is going to help you create memorable experiences with your family in a very fun, very, very silly way, Lupin Louis might be the game for you. Our number 6 is Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters by Mattel. It's just a really fun cooperative game where you're adventuring through a house that's on the cusp of being haunted and you need to try and get the treasures out and get rid of those ghosts before it's overrun. The fun part about this cooperative game is that it's not just cooperative in the sense of you have a shared goal, but your success in that is also hinges on very effective cooperative play. So as you move through the house, if you enter a room with a ghost, you may roll 1 dice. Now, your chance of you rolling a ghost and being able to eliminate the ghost from the room are not that high. However, if a second hero enters the room, they may roll 2 dice to try and scare that ghost away, and that does increase your odds. This is extremely important when you get closer to these haunts entering rooms because they're harder to get rid of. So it wants you to move through the house, not splitting off to go and find the treasures as quickly as you can, but moving together through the house to try and clear the rooms, get the treasures, and get back out again. Your little characters can carry their treasures in these adorable little backpacks, which I think is very fun. You can carry 1 treasure at a time as they move through the house. Now, another cool element of this game is that the ghosts and the haunts are constantly respawning. So unless you roll a 6 on the die, any other number will also mean you have to place a new ghost into the building. You'll do this by drawing a card from the deck. It will have a letter on it. You find the corresponding room letter and place a ghost there. If that room is already at ghost capacity, then a haunt emerges, and when all haunts are on the board, you're going to lose. That's why it's really important to be moving together through the house to get rid of those ghosts along your way and not just focusing on the gold. So I think for me, that's why this game is so good for young families, because not only is it cooperative, it has very simple gameplay, it has a very fun theme, its components are just adorable, but it also encourages you and really kind of forces you to work very effectively as a team, which I think is really cool for those young families to get into. I don't know if you're a fan of Ghostbusters or you're looking for a ghouly Halloween game, but your kids are young, I recommend you take a look at Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. So our number 5 is Catapult Feud and all the many expansions that it comes with. I straight away from the get-go went all in with this game. In Catapult Feud, you are, as you can imagine, using catapults. You'll be sitting across the room from the other team and you'll be building your own castles with these cool little plastic, quite heavy-duty blocks, and then placing your little soldiers around the castle in ways that are dictated by a set of rules if you want, or just completely free creation if you prefer that, which is what we do prefer. Now, there are also some cards which will help allocate actions or dictate what you can do on your turn, or ways that you can block other players on their turns, which does bring it into that tabletop-y world. However, I'm going to be really honest with you, we've never played with the cards because we just have a lot of fun setting up our castles and knocking each other's castles down, because at the core of it, what you want to be doing, you just want to be destroying things and building them up again and then destroying them again. And this is a very big box of toy, basically, and it's just so much fun. So why I recommend this as a game for young families is really that. It is a toy in a box on the table that you can play with your family as a gaming experience, and I think that's really, really cool. So if you're looking for a way to play with your kids, Catapult Feud might be the game for you. Our number 4 game is Detective Charlie by Loki Kids. Now, this game is a whodunit game again. It's cooperative, but it's also got a campaign sort of thing where you're following a narrative storyline through this little city of cute furry animals that can talk and commit crimes, apparently. But the crimes are really cutesy and they're never violent, they're never actually a threatening crime. It's always silly and funny, and they always have a really sweet reason for having done it. Now, in this game, you're going to play as Charlie, who is our detective kitty cat, who will be moving around the town, uncovering clues and trying to figure out who our culprit is for each mystery. You'll be doing this through rolling a dice, which will allow you to move a certain amount of spaces, or it will increase the clock time because Charlie wants to have fixed the mystery and then be back to the station by tea time, and you will score differently based on whether you get back then or not. Now we're working together to do this, and we are working together to figure out the crime, so there's no competition there, which I think is important with these deduction games with little kids, because once you start adding that pressure on there of it being competitive, yeah, it can become a game that I wouldn't recommend basically. So Detective Charlie does this really well. Now I think the clue system in this game is really smart. So you'll be uncovering clues, but the order in which you uncover them matter as well, because they all link together. So you might get a clue that you don't quite understand because you haven't uncovered a previous clue that will give you the context for that. So I think that's really cool. As far as replayability of this game goes, I didn't think that it would have a very high replayability because the culprits never change. And so once you've completed those 6 missions, you know what's going on, and I thought you will have to leave this one on the shelf for a year's time and then before we can bring it back. But the kids just love to replay it and replay it and replay it. In fact, it was our most played game last year, which is crazy because we've played a lot of games, and we've played a lot of games more than once. But this was the most played game because they just love playing it over and over. They love the clue system, they love the finding, they love trying to logic it out, whether they remember the culprit or not. I think they just love the journey, which is really fun and unique. So I think for young families, I recommend this game because it's a simple gameplay, because of its cute little world that you're living in, because of the clue system, because of the narrative system, and I think that it's a game that most families could pick up and get really into, and because it does have that limit of 6 levels, it's not too much of a time investment for a parent who might be busy or a family who might not play that often. So if you're looking for a whodunit game with a bit of a twist, Detective Charlie might be for you. It's time to get into the top 3 now, and we're starting off at number 3, The Adventures of Robin Hood by Cosmos Games. Now, hear me out. I know this game is completely different to the other games I've been talking about so far. It is definitely very far from the children category of games, which the other ones have generally fallen into as well, but this game is number 3 for a reason. This, as a family game, to me, even with young players, like young families, is just an amazing experience, because that's really what I'm basing a lot of these recommendations on. It is the experience of it to be played as a family, and Robin Hood is one of the best we've had. So for a little bit of context, the reason why I did start playing this game with 4 and 5-year-olds, although it's rated as age 10 plus, was completely coincidental. My husband and I were playing it together, just the 2 of us. We're playing the introduction level, which is kind of like a tutorial, and my kids, who were supposed to be sleeping at the time, but of course weren't, came out, they saw us playing. They know the story of Robin Hood because they've seen the Disney movie, and they were really interested in these little meeples and the way that they move, because the movement in this game is very unique. The kids asked if they could do the movement for us. They asked if they could move our characters, and I said, you know what, sure, why not? It was a little finicky for them. With a little bit of guidance, they got it, and they started to do really well at it. They got invested in the storyline because this is our beautiful campaign book. So as my husband was reading it, he was editing out anything that was a bit too mature, because it is rated for ages 10 plus, and Robin Hood can be a bit of a brutal storyline. So he was editing that stuff out. So that worked really well, and they got really invested. And when we won that tutorial level, they were up on the table yahooing, and they were so excited. And I thought, this is super great. And they straight away said, can we do your movement next time you play as well? So we agreed, and of course it came around to next time. And when they sat down at the table to do our movement, I thought, you know what, why are we doing this? Give them their own characters. Give them their own characters, because I'd love to see the way that they play this game. I'd love to see the way that they think about things. I'd love to see what they can do, and we play as a family unit. We are Robin Hood and his merry men. He needs a team. Let's have our team. Here they are. They're ready and able. And so we played it together, and I am so glad that we did, because it is some of the most beautiful, and I mean that, beautiful memories that we have as a family is playing Robin Hood together. We called it Robin Hood nights, and for 6 weeks, every Friday night, we would have a Robin Hood night where we played Robin Hood together. We had some snacks, we stayed up late, and we created our own Robin Hood adventure and story, and it's just so amazing when you can have a game that doesn't just provide you with a strategical challenge, or it doesn't provide you with, you know, a half an hour to switch your brain off, or whatever it is you use gaming for, but it actually gives you a whole experience and memories. And yeah, I mean, That's what I really want in a game when it comes down to it. And Robin Hood provides that in buckets. You know, it pours it all over you. You are having a full-on experience with this game, and it's an open world game too. So I think for me, that is one of the major reasons I would recommend this for young families, is because it is very open world. It encourages, not only allows, but it encourages exploration. It encourages outside of the box thinking. It wants you to think of wild ways to complete tasks. I mean, it does not hold your hand. It says, this is the ultimate goal. How you get there, or whether you get there, is up to you. And I thought it was just so fun to watch the kids try to logic out the whys of why they should do something, or the whys of why they should go first, or why they should get that extra turn. And that to me was one of the most fun parts of the experience, was just hearing everyone's thoughts and ideas bouncing off each other, and seeing the different ways that the kids would do things that I would never think to do things. And, you know, some of them were more effective than the way that I would do something, because their minds work in a different way. They see games in a different way. And I thought that was really, really cool. So this game for young families, I think, is actually perfect. While if the content is sometimes too mature, and people might think that, you know, strategy wise it's too mature, I actually think it's really, really perfect to get those fresh, crazy ideas into the mix, and to help you progress through that storyline. So I thought that was really brilliant. And if you are looking for a game that you can experience fully with your family, where you can create memories and you can have a really cool adventure in Sherwood Forest, I would recommend checking out The Adventures of Robin Hood. Our number 2 game is Adventure Builder by Wider Path Games. Now, I am going to try to hold myself back from hyping and raving too much, but this is one of the newest games that we've received. This is only 2 weeks old in our collection, but it's already number 2. I didn't expect this. I mean, I have Starport, so this is the big brother, but kind of little brother version of Adventure Builder. So these are RPG manuals for kids. It's a non-violent world where children explore adventures and they get comfortable with the role-playing world. We've played this and we love this, but as a mainly tabletop gamer, I did find the jump to playing this game really difficult personally, because I like to have components on a table. I like to have a very clear set of rules and a start and finish point, because that's just the way that my mind has been trained thanks to tabletop games. Enter Adventure Builder, which brings this and tabletop games and smushes them together in this absolutely perfect bridge between the two worlds of tabletop and roleplay games. You are playing as hero kids, or hero whatever really, because it's up to you. It's a roleplay game. You are given a base selection of characters. You're given character sheets to fill out. You can allocate traits to your characters. You can equip them with items or pets or spells, and you upgrade those as you go through your story. They have also given you preset stories that you can play through. So this is the really beautiful part about this game, is that it really does guide the guide. So they're not DMs in this game, they're guides. And you can really have as little or as much imagination when you play this game as you like, and it holds your hand through it, and it's so good, it's so well done. So it gives you this deck of encounters to go through. So if you don't want to make up this whole storyline because you're like me and your mind just goes blank when it comes to making up these kind of things, you have an encounter deck to help prompt you and to prompt your adventure. Or you can use the encounter deck completely and not make up any of your own story, because it gives you pre-built narratives as well. So it's just like, it's the perfect introduction really for someone like me or others like me who are more into tabletop. If you want to get into roleplay games with your kids, start here, because this game is seriously going to, it's not only going to provide an adventure for you, but it also helps you slowly become more comfortable in that world. Because I will say, from the first game that we played of this, I completely used the narrative they gave. I completely used the prescribed encounter decks. We didn't really go off script. We didn't really go too far into actions or choices. We just sort of stuck very, very tightly to what was presented to us physically, but by the third game, I was creating my own encounter decks. I was going off script for the narrative. I had prepared myself properly by this point, so I had read the narrative ahead. I had prepared a deck that I thought was going to suit that narrative. I'd got props, I got costumes, I'd figured out voices I was going to do for characters, and that's what I mean. This game just really encourages and supports that sort of learning and that sort of playing, and it's so unique, and I just really think that's very, very, very cool. And for someone who has been gaming for years, who has way too many games, it's always nice when a game can surprise me and can be completely different from anything else I've ever played before. And Adventure Builder just really ticks those boxes in such a wonderful, beautiful package. I mean, look at this artwork. It's just amazing. That's throughout the game. It's throughout the manuals. And then as a bonus, you can combine the world of Starport. So if you have this, huge roleplay manuals as well, you can combine these two worlds, use elements from both and merge that together, and then you just have hours and hours and hours and hours of fun ahead of you and your family. So if I'm going to give you a complete recommendation on why this is great for young families, if I haven't said enough, it is the adaptability of this game. It is the accessibility. It is the low entry level for this game. I feel fairly confident that someone who has no experience in roleplay games can get this game and they can begin their adventure straight away. Read the instructions, begin your adventure, and that's it. You have opened up a whole new world of gaming for you and your family to enjoy. So if you're looking for a way not only to get your kids into tabletop gaming, but also into roleplay games, Adventure Builder might be the game for you. It's finally time to talk about our #1 game for young families, and that is the Quest Kids by Treasurefall Games. Now, this game is a brilliant, brilliant introduction to dungeon crawlers. Do you ever think that you could crawl a dungeon with your children? I mean, a few years ago, I would have said definitely not, but this game makes it possible in such a fun, such a child-friendly way. It is a non-violent game, so we are simply chasing away baddies, we are not defeating them, we are not hurting them, we're not hurting each other. In fact, it's semi-cooperative, so we're going to be scoring on our own, but we'll be helping each other through the dungeon. So how does that work? Well, we play as one of the hero kids, and we're going to be adventuring through Tolk's cave and chasing away baddies, collecting gems and treasure, and completing quests. Now, you're going to be using ability cards to do these things. So if you encounter a baddie, you need to use the matching ability cards, and they're different colors, so there's a little bit of set collection there. You're picking those up along the way, and you'll use those cards to chase them away. If, however, you don't have enough cards, you might take 1 health damage, or one of the other people playing in the dungeon can lend you an ability card from their own hand. And if they do this, they get a Kind Kid card, which gives them an extra ability or perk as well. So not only does this game encourage kindness, it also, it rewards it. So it's a really cool incentive there to get kids to start thinking about working together and working a little bit strategically there too, because, it's in their best interest to get rid of baddies as well, because if you clear the dungeon, then you all win, but if you don't, you're sort of, we didn't clear that dungeon. That's a little bit of an unsuccessful dungeon crawl, I'd say. So one of the things I love the most about the Quest Kids games is that it grows with your family. You might notice here I've got a secondary box. This is the first expansion that was released, and it provides a full campaign, which adds new components, which adds new gameplay, which adds new awesomeness into this already really fantastic base game. And then they've gone and created another expansion, which I think is being released on Kickstarter this week, called Big Bags of Tolk Cave. This is an expansion which adds, again, even more things. So you're getting a whole new gameplay system with some dice added, which I'm going to be really, really clear right now, I think is a fantastic choice, because when I think of dungeon crawler, I think of it having dice, and I'm thinking Arcadia Quest, games like that. It also gives you some different abilities for your characters, it gives you some events, and it's just got its own narrative as well. So I think that's the coolest thing about the Quest Kids game. You can play just the base game and you can have so much fun with it, or you can add in some expansions and change things up. It's so variable, and that's what makes it really great for young families, because it is going to grow with your family. This is not a game you're going to play once and then you're going to outgrow, because it keeps growing too. I am so pleased that we've been given the opportunity to try the Quest Kids, because honestly, It's number one for a reason. This is a game that I'm always excited to play, I'm always excited to talk about, I'm always excited to encourage other people to try. And if you are looking for a great dungeon crawler or a great way to get your kids into tabletop gaming, I cannot recommend the Quest Kids enough. Happy gaming!